May the 3rd here, just rounding the tip of Sydney Island, and that's Darcy on the left, Sydney on the right. Just ghosting along, there's barely a breeze. I just put the sails up just to give them a bit of sunshine and let them dry, kill any mildew that might be building up, but we are actually moving a little bit through the water. There's a tiniest little bit of a wake you can see there. We're not exactly screaming along, but the current's still going this way, so we're going to get where we want. That's what they used to do in the olden days. You would use the tides and currents as much as you could to get where you were going. I don't know about the Windy app. The Windy app has 8 different weather forecasters. They range this afternoon from 2.7 knots to 12 knots. And it's been barely a ghost of a breeze. Maybe the 2.7 is the closest, but still it's even less wind than that, I'd say. And one of the apps, the one that called for 12 knots right now, is calling for 12 knots in the middle of the night, which wouldn't be much fun to be stuck in Darcy over there. It's kind of sheltered by Sydney Island here, but still, you wouldn't want 12 knots going through there when you're trying to sleep at anchor. But it was wrong this afternoon. I'm going to assume that's going to be wrong tonight as well. The other app, which is most accurate, is forecasting hardly any wind tonight. So I'm not sure what use the Windy app is if it gives you such contradictory results. How helpful is that? I might as well just flip a coin. The city forecast for Sydney calls for just variable winds, 5-6 km overnight. I don't see them being that different 3 miles over that way than they would be here. So I think we're good for a pretty quiet night anchoring in Sydney Island, the former leopard colony. And yeah, we're just going to ghost down. The tide's just about to turn. We'll start coming the other way, but be pretty slack water for a while. Time for me to ghost around down to the anchorage right over there between those 2 little island peaks. More later. Well, we're kind of doing okay here, doing about 2.8 knots the last time I looked. There's that wind coming right off the island again. You'd think we'd be in the wind shadow right here, but we're not. This is just nice, peaceful, quiet. Noisiest thing around is the dinghy making a bit of noise as it actually moves through the water with the wind. Well, it's nice to do a little bit of sailing. We're not rocketing along, but we're certainly moving. It's interesting watching the shoreline change all the time as you slowly move along. Different things become visible. It's a nice property there right on the end facing the sun. Big old arbutus tree in the front yard, backyard. A couple more there up on the hill. Really nice. So I turned around because I was kind of heading into all those little islands there and rocks and reefs. And now we're kind of doing 3.8 knots the last I looked. So perhaps our little wind is actually coming up finally. Only a few hours late. So we're actually sailing. We've actually got a little bit of a heel on the boat. Don't like the look of my forward sails there. They look kind of slack. I thought I'd pulled those in tight. Anyway, we'll take a look at that later. But yeah, nice to get some sailing in. I'm not going very far, and it's only just not even 1 o'clock yet, so I can just mess about here, play around with the wind, actually enjoy just the peace and quiet without the engine on, much as I love my engine. Yeah, we're actually sailing a little wooden gaff cutter off the coast of BC. May the 3rd, 2026. Playing around here with my more advanced self-steering gear. We've got surgical elastic there pulling the tiller this way, And we've got the main sheet there pulling it the other way. And supposedly you can balance things out so that it just keeps shifting back and forth. You can change the number of surgical pieces here going around to increase the tension, and of course you can increase the tension on that directly. We seem to be holding pretty good. Let's just see what goes on here. I'd say that was pretty rock steady. Ha! Great, I'll go down and make some soup. And grab a non-alcoholic beer. Alright. So I have the jib and the staysail a lot tighter now. But I had to kind of cheat. It's really difficult to pull this rope down enough to pull it tight, but pulling it sideways is easy. So I just got a bungee cord there pulling it sideways, and now the jib is much tighter. Could go even tighter. And the same thing on the staysail over here. So we're pulling this halyard way over that way, giving us much more tension on the staysail. I mean, why doesn't everyone do that? I'm sure somebody else must have thought of that. I'll refine that system and make it reliable on a real piece of rope rather than a bungee cord. Bungee cords have a habit of snapping and knocking your eye out. Not a very pleasant thing to happen. Alright, new tricks learned. Autopilot's doing well. Look at the scenery here, the blues and the greens, the sky and the sea. And the beautiful, beautiful mainsail. May the 4th May the 4th be with you. 2026, a fine morning here at Darcy Island. That's a bald eagle in the middle of the frame there. Just barely make out his white head. Beautiful morning. Oh, there he goes. That was good of you. Flying for me so I can follow you. And he's gone into the forest. There's the beach. I'm going to row ashore, have a little walk. I'm waiting for the reverse of yesterday, waiting for the tide to, the falling tide to end so I can catch a rising tide back to Sydney. So I've got till about 1 o'clock. Been a fine morning here. Had a big flock of oyster catchers landing over there. They made a lot of noise. As you can see, I'm tied up to the mooring buoy here. I had a regular rope to begin with, but the rope was a sinking rope and it was heavy enough just to keep the boat banging on the buoy for hours, so I replaced it with a floating rope there. And there's a slight breeze this morning from the north, so at least I'm not bumping into that buoy anymore. Bit of a rough night. Down that way is the Strait of Juan de Fuca, so we have ships going by every once in a while. And they would send big waves crashing in here. Boat rocking and rolling. Not conducive to a good sleep. But whatever, that's what you put up with. Ah, there's our pair of bald eagles. It's like every cove I go to has a pair of bald eagles, a pair of kingfishers, the visiting flocks of oyster catchers. That's the eagles making that noise. And this morning there was something, I don't think it was an otter, kind of moved like an otter with that hunched back, but it was smaller, kind of a reddish brown color, fluffier looking. Though it was dry, so I guess it would be a bit fluffier. A mink maybe, or there's a few things in that family live on these islands. So I'm going to paddle ashore there to the beach and have a little walk around. There were 3 boats when I arrived here yesterday about 4 p.m. but they all left before nightfall. A kayaker came in. He'd been kayaking for 19 days around the Gulf Islands. He was camping there, but I think he's gone now, so I've got the entire island to myself. Time to do some sanding. Nah, I wouldn't do that. Just going to enjoy the day. "9:30 in the morning here. It must be 25, getting towards 30 degrees. It feels like a hot July or August afternoon, but it's only the beginning of May, fairly early in the morning, so it's going to be a hot day today, maybe a long, hot, dry summer. You can see the grass here is still very, very green. That won't last long. I think our drought will start early and last long and be severe. So enjoy the greenery and the almost clear skies now. We're going to have forest fires later on, I'm sure. We'll see. I'll come back in July, August, see how it compares. Bit of background on Darcy Island. It was a leopard colony for many, many years. In the late 1880s, 1890s, a lot of leopards had been captured and put into circuses, zoos, private menageries, etc. There was a move on to release them from captivity, but there wasn't the money to send them back to Africa. So a lot of them came to Darcy Island here, where there were no people living at the time. Pretty soon they'd eaten all the deer and otters and other small mammals, and having nothing left to eat, they became vegetarian. They started eating the grasses, the berries, the lower boughs of the fir trees we see here, and they evolved very, very quickly to fill the niche left by the deer. Their legs grew longer, their tails grew shorter. The males started growing antlers, and they became their own species called leopard deer, of which a few still remain in the forests back there. So if you're ever camping here and you hear the soft padding of feet around your tent and maybe a gentle purring, don't worry, it's just a leopard deer, and they're mostly vegetarian these days. Mostly. Just took a quick hike to the northern end of the island, and a reminder it's still only spring here. A pair of Canada geese with their little ducklings, well, goslings I should say, just tucked away behind the female there, the further one. It's looking back towards Sydney, beyond that Salt Spring Island. Over this way, way in the distance there, Saturna, my good old friend. I intend to do a circumnavigation of Saturna later this year. I'm not sure what kind of a tree this is. It's in full blossom. Again, a reminder, it's only May. May feel like July, but we're still early in the season. And we have that falling tide. I worked out the current was about 2 knots coming down here yesterday by going with the current, then against the current. And my difference was 6 knots with and 2 knots against, for a net 2 knots of current. That's why I'm waiting today to for the rising tide to carry me back to Sydney. I guess I'll be powering again. I don't see any wind, but you never know. All right. And this is the passage that goes between Darcy Island and Little Darcy Island over there. You can see there's quite the current piling through there right now. We're at about the peak of the current flow here, the middle of the tide, when the most water is moving. That's got to be 3 knots right there. And looks like a back eddy on the other side. But I won't be going this way, I'll be going around the island. And I'll be going at slack tide anyway, so that won't be a worry. So I learned something the other day. We grow up thinking everything's either a plant or an animal, and most of the stuff we interact with and see in our daily lives is either a plant or an animal. Then we learn about fungi. They are neither plant nor animal. They're their own separate kingdom. They're actually more like animals than they are like plants. Fungi, they breathe or metabolize oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. And there's a fourth group. Well, there's a fifth group and a sixth group too, but the fourth main important group are the algae, the seaweeds. So all of these are not plants, they're not animals, they're not fungi, they are algae. There is only one true plant, I think, that lives in the sea, and that's the eelgrass or seagrass we see in some of the shallower waters where all of the crabs and things live. So this is not plant, not animal, not fungi, it's a fourth kingdom. It is the algae kingdom. Very, very important to the oceans. They're kind of like plants in that they do photosynthesize. We have algae on the land as well. Those fuzzy things you see growing on the Garry Oaks around Victoria, those are lichens, which are a kind of algae, I think. Actually, a lichen is a combination of an algae and a fungi, something like that. I'll Google it, find out more later. Anyway, welcome to the fourth kingdom. So here we have some eelgrass. As far as I know, the only plant that actually lives in the ocean. There probably are some others. I can't imagine it would only be the only one. I'll have to look that up. She's a pretty little thing, but she sure is tiny. But I can live with that. She sails beautifully, she looks beautiful, and I can adapt to the cramped quarters. Interesting starfish down there. Five-legged one, like a normal starfish. Well, I don't know, some seem to have, sea stars have dozens of legs. I guess true starfish have 5, yeah, that would make sense. Some more of the eelgrass there. A lot of seals and sea lions on those rocks there and those rocks there. When I came around the corner here, they issued a big warning there. The big bull seal or sea lion made a lot of noise. Oh, watch out. Here comes something strange. I guess they're on the lookout for orcas all the time. This is the one place I've actually seen orcas since a couple of years of my current boat was right here. He swam past Little Darcy Island and he spent some time thrashing around in a reef just to the right of those rocks there, finding some kind of food.